Okay, here's Dr. Frank, and I just want to thank him for all his work.
Thank you. Somebody the other day posted on social media, they said, Dr. Frank must really like that shirt. He always wears that same shirt. Actually, I have 3 of them. Because when I'm on the road, that way I don't have to clean them, right? It's kind of like a uniform. But I wore the same shirt literally for 4 days because they lost my bags. So I've been traveling 10 days. I do 10 days on, 3 days off, 10 days on, 3 days off. I came straight from Seattle yesterday. And then before that, I was in Western Ohio, Indiana, Missouri, and boy, oh boy, do we have some good things happening around the country. Some of our states, if you remember in the early days, the way it worked was you had Giuliani and Sidney Powell and all the attorneys coming out with evidence, and basically they were pelting us with evidence. That's what was happening. And that didn't work too well. And I know why, and I'll tell you why. And then a bunch of us got involved with a bunch of legislators, and that didn't work too well. And I'll tell you why. And now the new strategy is we start at the grassroots, which works. So we find teams of, what I've been doing is, that's why I'm everywhere, because you got to be in person. You got to meet with the county clerks face to face. You got to show them how they got hacked, because none of them think they're hacked. They all are proud. They're patriots. They work hard. They think their elections are great, and you have to just sit down with them. It doesn't work on Zoom. So I'm going around the country, and I'm meeting privately with legislators ahead of time. We organize, and I don't like to give away their names because they don't want to be exposed until we're ready. And when we're ready, they've got the data in their hands. They've got the canvassing well underway. They've got a whole movement behind them. They've been given legal counsel. They've learned their own state laws. A lot of our legislators, can you imagine, they don't know their own laws? They're good at campaigning, but maybe not. And you have to learn, don't you? You probably learn more after you were elected than before you're elected, huh? Exactly. And so that's good. That's what it's fine. We help them, we teach them, and then when you launch the audit drive you're after, or you're launching whatever election reform effort you're after, you're equipped now. It's not just you against the world. There's a whole movement already. So that's what I've been doing, going state to state, fanning the flames, starting fires and fanning the flames. That's what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing, exactly. So who am I? So I started in Pennsylvania. And I did COVID all last year. Did anybody follow my COVID site? When did you start? Which month? Like March? Yes, exactly. So I started modeling COVID in November of 2019 because I had an exchange student from China whose parents live in Wuhan. And he said, instead of modeling elections, Dr. Frank, because you usually do elections with your students in election years, can we do an epidemic instead? Because we had done SARS and Ebola. I always use practical examples with my students along with the math I'm teaching. So during the year, I teach at a special school for gifted kids. And so you can teach them all the stuff they were supposed to learn in half a year anyway. So it gives you lots of time to do all the other application stuff. It's very cool. So anyway, so by January, I already had models up on Facebook because I always teach them you have to make your predictions public. You have to put your models out. And then if they work, great. You could say, hey, I predicted that. And if it doesn't work, then you have to go back and evaluate your assumptions and rebuild. But anyway, by March, I had something like 10,000 people following me on Facebook. Okay, and by summer, I had 150,000 people following me on Facebook, including politicians all over the country. We were modeling 30 countries and all 50 counties, all 50 states, all counties in the United States. So people were getting mad at me. Hey, Dr. Frank, where's my county? Because every day they would check in. They wanted to know where they stood in the COVID epidemic. Did you remember doing that when I got to the county level? Suddenly, I went off the radar. And all these people were mad at me. Where are you, Dr. Frank? Where are you, Dr. Frank? I'm not allowed to talk about it. I'm not allowed to talk about it. I'm working on something secret. Starting in December, I was asked to help out with figuring out what the elections were. And Sarah Sanders says on November 4th, where are you, Sarah? She said she started praying on November 4th, please, God, have Dr. Frank work on the election. And I was asked by in probably the most corrupt county in the country, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania District 4, to figure out what was happening in the elections, and started working for the legislature. And it didn't take me long to figure out what was going on in Pennsylvania District 4. And they said, well, have you looked at it in any other counties? Oh, no, I've just been working on this one, So then I did 14 counties in Pennsylvania, and that's when I noticed the patterns. And then they said, well, have you looked at any other states? I said, well, yeah, I'll compare it to Ohio, because in Ohio we do it right. And so then I applied the algorithms I'd learned in Pennsylvania to Ohio, and before I even looked at the registration databases, I predicted all 88 counties in Ohio. The voter demographics, I could tell you exactly how many people of every age voted in Ohio. So I knew, oops. So then I checked Florida, and then I checked North Carolina. I didn't check South Carolina because you guys don't give us your data. You have to fight for it. You have to fight for it, and it's really tough. So I was looking for states that would where I could get data quickly, because I was trying to find places where the algorithm wasn't working. And every place I looked there were algorithms working. It's multiple levels of algorithms. I usually just show you like one of the top levels, because if you get down into the weeds, your eyes glaze over. But anyway, I met Mr. Lindell in March, and he made me famous all of a sudden. I'd been quiet all that time because I was working for attorneys who didn't want you to tip your hand, and I was working for legislators. By the way, let me just say, in Pennsylvania, we showed them in December that their registration database had been completely hacked. We FOIA'd their own records and convinced them. They believed us. They threw out their entire state database. This is a matter of record. The Pennsylvania state legislature threw out their entire database, hired a new company to rebuild their entire state database. December 21st, that contract was awarded. 3 days later, that company was bought by Zuckerberg. So basically, what it taught me was that our legislatures don't want to fix the problem.
Their vested interest is against this.
People don't understand. Exactly. He's exactly right. So that was my first bitter lesson. I'm a scientist. I think if I show you data that you will come to my point of view. That's the way I think. Well, no, there's another agenda. Okay. So then I was in the lawsuits. And remember when the Supreme Court rejected the lawsuits? So then my second bitter lesson was our legal system isn't going to save us. So the legislatures aren't going to save us. Maybe later they will. But for now, our legislatures are not going to save us. Our legal system isn't going to save us. We have to save us. It's going to be us. We the people. That's why all the affidavits are important that you're doing. Because we are taking back our government. That's what's happening. And we need our legislators, though, but we can't just, they can't just run onto the floor of the House one day and say, we need election reform. They'll just be laughed off the floor. They're in the minority. Our real patriots they're just a few. As I go state to state, there are just a couple of real good ones in every state. And I'm meeting with them privately, and we get organized. And then the movement comes out. So that's basically what I've been doing, spending my life doing. And people say, well, how do you pay for that? Well, you guys brought me here, so thank you. I try to make everybody pay wherever I go. You have to pay my expenses. And I don't charge a speaker fee. If you keep me for a few days, maybe I'll ask you to chip in a little bit so I can pay my mortgage. But Mr. Lindell helps too. Okay, so I don't charge, like I don't say, you have to pay me $10,000 or something like that. There are a lot of people doing that. I think Seth is also a good guy. We're not here for the money. All right, so then Mr. Lindell put me up within a week from going from people knowing me about COVID, 150,000 people know who I am, to 10 million people know who I am. And so I've been going around the country ever since. That made that movie Scientific Proof. Did you see that movie? Oh, okay. So a lot of you have homework to do. It's a fun movie. It's a super fun movie because Mr. Lindell didn't know half of what I was going to talk about during it. And so he kept interrupting me, and he'd get all worked up, Oh, wait a minute, that means this, and you know how excited he is. And I have to tell you, now that you get to know me a little bit, you can see I could talk forever. I love to talk. Well, I've never met anybody who could talk more than me till I met Mr. Lindell. He can talk. He can talk. So we recorded about 3.5 hours, and then this is 1 hour long. And It's all edited, and I still think it's half and half. So, all right. Anyway, and then the movie Absolute Proof. All these movies you can see on Frank's Speech or Lindell TV, and these are important platforms because the media is suppressing almost all the information, and so you need to be able to go to these places, and that's why he set up Frank's Speech. It's not named after me. He named it before he met me. It means bold, truthful speech, okay? So that's the idea. You can go and you can see what's really going on. So Frank's Speech. So anyway, there's places to go. And so I made this as a present for him on July 4th, and he liked it. So I've been using it going around. Join the pillow fight to take back America. So just, you can support the work. I'm just going to give you one example because this is live, right? So you get to hear some details that you wouldn't do in a formal presentation. So he called me. I spent a lot of time with him. He called me the other morning. I guess it's today Tuesday? Let's say Wednesday. Today's Tuesday. Okay. So it was Monday morning. He called me Monday morning and he said, I want you to go to a certain state and I want you to work with the canvassers there. I want you to organize some movements there, and I'm just going to wire you some money so you can pay the volunteers. And he just pouring his own personal money. This isn't my pillow money. This is his personal money into it. So he's a real patriot. All right. So I got to give the keynote speech before the president's rally in Wellington, Ohio. That was his coming out rally, which was really fun. So that also kind of made me famous. Since then, I've been busy. People have been making memes about me. Dr. Frank, make math great again. I didn't make this. This is fun. This came after Colorado. Perhaps the country has become my classroom. Dr. Frank. I've been going around teaching. When I was the 21,000 people at that Wellington rally, it was a hot Saturday afternoon, and if you've ever been to a Trump rally, they're really rowdy. And as soon as I came up to the mic, I got these two jumbotrons. I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, it's hot. They're rowdy. No way, am I going to be able to teach math? But as soon as I started talking, it's just like, just this quiet came over the audience. You could hear all the oohs and ahs. It was pretty cool. I took my daughter there with me, Nellie. I take her everywhere I can. This is a long trip to take her on, but I like taking her along. I have two sons as well, but she got to be there, and Mr. Lindell came in afterwards and got a selfie. That's him taking a selfie with his camera. Taking us out of me and Nellie. Nellie's a star. But I always like to bring up Nellie because she has Down syndrome. She's 23. She was our first child. And she is just so fun. We take her everywhere. Everybody loves her. She makes everybody happy. And I just want everybody to know how great Down syndrome kids are. So if you know... And it's working because last week I got a phone call from somebody who said, I hear you had a Down syndrome kid, and we just learned we're going to have our pregnancy. We have a Down syndrome child. Would you just talk to us about it? And so I think maybe, I don't know, it's their decision, not mine, but I hope they have the same blessings that I've had. So anyway, that's good. But my kids don't like me to talk about them, my boys, And so, but they also don't like to come to my events because they say, Dad, you're always the last one at every event. I like to talk, so I like to hang around afterwards, and here we are, 21,000 people gone, I'm the last one there. Okay, but at the last event I was at, this lady came up and started praying for me, and she kept praying, and this was like one of those prayers that keeps going and going, and we're praying for his family, and we're praying for his marriage, and please bless his marriage and protect it. It's like, nothing's wrong with my marriage. I married my high school sweetheart. I married her 40 years ago. So anyway, that's nice. She's Donna. And so my kids, I have 3 kids. Daniel, he's 21. He's going into the ministry. And that's his fiancée. He just proposed. And my son, Derek, and he's 19. And he says, there are no conservative girls left, Dad. So if you know any 19-year-old-ish conservative girls, send them our way. We're in the market. We're in the market. And then my wife, Donna, and Nellie, of course. So anyway, that's who I am. I've been a scientist aggressively for about 40 years. I've got 60 scientific publications. I was really fortunate early on in my career, I made a major scientific discovery, made the cover of Science magazine, Naturwissenschaften, had cover articles on Nature. So I got to tour the world giving lectures on the scientific discoveries I made. It was good. And it gave me the exposure I needed to get a lot of consulting contracts because I hated academics, and I left it in 1996 and went into business for myself, because universities are like horrible places to be. In fact, they had a. I remember the last year I was there, I refused to go to it was a racial sensitivity class. That was in 1996. And I mean, this stuff has all been starting a long time ago. Yeah, exactly. But that's what happens. You teach at the university first, and then those people become the teachers, and it's a bummer. But anyway, so I started a business, and most of what I do there I can't talk about because I sign non-disclosure agreements. But I've been doing that. I talk about bowling though because I can do that. But if you go into any bowling ball manufacturer in the world, they have a whole bunch of my machines there. I'm a physicist, right? Think about what bowling is. You spin a ball. It slides down the lane and smash, everything goes. That's physics. That's great physics. So I have a lot of fun. I have lots of bowling products. So that was fun. I ran that business really aggressively for about 15 years, and then I kind of let it peter out, and I was looking for something new to do in my life, and I found it. Okay, and then I helped start this school 25 years ago for gifted kids, which has just been an amazing, amazing thing. I do it part-time, a couple hours, but it's stimulating to be around really, really bright kids. It's a lot of fun. And for 40 years, I've been modeling elections, and you just saw Seth talking about. So here, this is the ratio between Trump and Biden, and you can just see, between Trump and Hillary, 2016. And you can see that there's this interesting trend. I've sorted them. And I did this in 2016 to show my students which states they needed to watch in 2020. Wisconsin, Michigan, New Hampshire, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Florida. These are the ones that matter. So you can see it's fun to use math to study elections. I predicted them all correctly until this last one, although I think I did. Okay, I think I did. But anyway, so I predicted Trump was going to win in 2016, 13 months in advance, and he wasn't even the candidate yet. How did I do that? Because I love math. Okay, so this was me doing the COVID stuff last year. Let's see, we're in South Carolina. Okay, so this is you right here, South Carolina. This green one right here. This is back when it started in April, and this is your epidemics here, and this is where we are. This only went up to when? Only through October, but I was graphing it, so you guys had it really bad, obviously. It's a good thing you shut down your whole state. All right. Oh, yeah. So lately there's a lot of talk going around, and people are saying that they think that I'm a devil because they think I'm against forensic audits. I'm not against forensic audits. But the strategy that's working, the one that I am working hard behind the scenes, and you're going to hear some news in the next couple of days too, to put all these people to shame who've been criticizing me and saying you're against forensic audits. Yeah, right. No, I want them to happen, so I'm working hard to make them happen. You can't get the cart before the horse. You have to have the data first. Every time I was at a state the other day with 6 county clerks in a certain state, and they were all like, we believe you, so let's do some canvassing and get the data, then we'll go to our legislature. You need the canvassing to get the audits. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do one or the other. You just got to have the data. You need it. So anyway, that's what people have been after me. Just ignore them. I'm a good guy. So here's my Dr. Frank Ops timeline. So back in November 2nd through the 6th, during the election, there were groups of cyber people around the world collecting recordings of our election happening in real time. And they're called PCAPs, they're called packet captures. When you talk on the internet, data doesn't go in a continuous stream, it goes in little packets. Think of it like little envelopes. There's a from and a to and a timestamp postmark, right? And then there's stuff in the envelope. And the beautiful thing about PCAPs is that when you're communicating on the internet, if I send you some information, it goes to your router before it goes to your computer, and then that router says, I hope I got these data correctly. How can I check? adds it all up. It's called a checksum, and it verifies with the sender that it was the right checksum. And if it's the right checksum, then it passes it on to you. So there's like a little delay in there while the data's coming into you. Just double checking. Hey, did we get the data right? And in that moment that it's being checked, there's another program called a sniffer that can be going, ooh, what's that? Ooh, I'll save that. Ooh, I'll save that. You can capture those packets. And that's what was happening during the election. We were capturing 37 terabytes of election data from 3,009 counties in our country. So, yeah, Trump won. Yeah. And we all know it. Okay. So I started my work in December in Pennsylvania. And then January 9th, that's when Lindell got absolute proof. It's when he got the PCAPs. He was given access. He didn't actually have them in his hand. 37 terabytes is hard to just like get in your hand. But he was given access to it, and he began evaluating it, and he realized what he had, and so he made this movie, Absolute Proof. Did you see that? 140 million people saw that like the first 2 weeks. And you never heard about it in the media except to make fun of it, right? Okay. So then then I joined his team in March 15th. I was struggling because I didn't really know Mike at that point. And all my analysis, I was going state to state trying to find a state where I couldn't predict what was happening. By the way, I finally found one. It was last week, and I won't say yet where it is, but I was sitting there with a county clerk, and I'm going to show you data for your state, and I was showing the data for her county, and I said, I'm having trouble predicting your county. I can't get to work. And she says, you better believe it. She says 95% of our people vote in person, and the 5% remaining, I verified every one of them was a real voter. That's the first county I haven't been able to predict. Does that tell you something? Okay, very good. I'm glad you guys are learning. All right. So that made me a little famous right there, the scientific proof thing. So I started traveling around the country, and I was still trying to find places where I couldn't find corruption. So I had met, during the COVID stuff, I'd met this gal, Sharona Bishop in Colorado. And I called her up, and I said, Sharona, I'm looking around the country trying to find elections that don't make sense. And, what was it like in Colorado? And she just started crying. Oh, Dr. Frank, it's horrible. We're a super conservative county. We're like 65-35 conservative, and we just elected 4 of the most liberal county commissioners ever, and they want to put CRT in our schools. They want to enforce all this. I mean, it's just like on and on and on. She was just like totally upset, and I said, well, chill out. Just, can we get data for Colorado? And so next day there was data from Colorado in my email inbox, and I started analyzing it, and that's what some of the data that was in Mr. Lindell's movie, Scientific Proof, and that is another divine appointment. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to tell you that story, but there's so many cool things along the way. They're just remarkable coincidences that made all this possible. But something super important happened while I was visiting Colorado, because Sharona kept me very busy. I gave 3 talks a day for 3 days in a row, 4 different counties. And I met with legislators and clerks, and I met with this one clerk, Tina Peters. Have you heard of her? I sat in her office in April, and I showed her how her election was stolen. And at first she didn't believe it. Just like every other clerk I ever meet, they're all, no way. I do all the right rules. I follow all the instructions. My elections are secure. They are really trained and ingrained to think in certain ways, and they don't realize what's happening to them. So it's the same thing every time I work with them. It's like there's this first big resistance, and it's okay. I admire their patriotism and their dogged determinism to have a secure election. But then we gradually tease out the problems, and pretty soon they're like, oh boy. So anyway, once we had gotten Tina to the point where she realized her election was stolen, since we're short on time, I won't tell you the whole story. She said, okay, what do I need to do? And so we advised her, and we coached her on how to get backups of all of her systems. And you think that New Mexico's an audit, Arizona is an audit. How would you like to have complete access to everything with no resistance? That's what we had. Okay, so we backed up all of our systems. at her request and her instructions. And if you think about it, she's doing her job. Her job is to protect the election in her county. And we told her that what was going to happen when Dominion came, because they happen to use Dominion machines, when Dominion was going to come in and update her machines, that they would erase her machines. And so she says, well, they can't do that. I'm supposed to keep all the records for 22 months. That's by federal law. And we said, well, you better back them up. Well, how do I do that? So that's where we came in and we could help her out with that. The interesting thing is, once we started doing this around the country, we've done this in more than just Colorado. Once we do this, then we learn things too. And we learned how things were operating. We learned what the back doors were. And we could monitor the elections that were happening after November all around the country. We've got several elections where we recorded the whole thing over the internet because the machines aren't connected to the internet. Okay. So then I was in this other movie. So in the meantime, all this other stuff is happening. I'm going around the country and learning, and I'm getting better and better at this and working with teams. And then we did the Cyber Symposium. And I think you guys probably would like to hear about the Cyber Symposium, would you? Yeah, I think so too. And I've got lots of things I could say to you, and I want to save a little bit of time at least to talk to you about your own data. But I need to just tell you a little bit about the Cyber Symposium. People, it's been rough on me too, because I went around the country telling everybody, I got the math that proves that your election was stolen. We got the canvassing that proves the election was stolen. Wait till we give you the recordings of the election being stolen with the PCAPs. It's like game, set, match. Boom, you're done. So I'm going around telling everybody, get ready, here come the PCAPs, here come the PCAPs. And then we didn't release them. And people are like, wait a minute, what's going on? How come you didn't release them? Let me just say something right off the bat. Let's pretend PCAPs never existed. You already have mountains of evidence. So it's really not about the evidence. The reason nothing's happening is because you and me are, what did Seth say? I like that word. Affluenza. We're lazy. We've let it happen to us. We've rolled over and let them do this to us. It's been going on for 2 decades. Okay, so at least. All right. So anyway, let me talk to you about the Cyber Symposium. Okay. All right. Oh, by the way, I'm a terrorist because I'm opposed to COVID measures. I have claims of election fraud. I believe Trump can be reinstated, and I like celebrating religious holidays. Okay. So the red checks are where I've been in the last couple months, and I guess I get to change this one to red here from green. These green ones are going to be to in the next couple of days or weeks. I don't know. I had to hire somebody to help me. It's just too much. I can't keep track of everything. But I've been 15 states in person. While I was in Wisconsin, who we're going to have an audit there, while I was there, I met with Janelle Branch, and we made a hero out of her. And we'd like to make a hero out of Amanda, right? We'd like to do that. We'd like to equip her to be able to, she's already a hero, but you know what I mean. We'd like to equip her to be able to succeed. While I was there, she walked me down the hallway, and this is huge mosaic. I mean, this is like the big dome of the Capitol, It's gorgeous, about 20 foot wide, and this is Lady Liberty, and she's got one hand pointed up at heaven because that's the source of our liberty. And then the other hand on the ballot box, because that's how we protect our liberty. If we don't get our liberty back, if we don't get our elections back, we're losing our liberty. And as Mr. Lindell says, it's a good thing that Trump lost in November, or we wouldn't know we lost our country. We lost our country. We're not trying to protect future elections. We lost our country in November. That's why we can't say, oh, well, let's just let that go and we'll try to win it in the next one. You can't fix broken elections with broken elections. We have to relentlessly fix 2020. And I like what Sidney Powell says. She says, fraud vitiates all subsequent wrong decisions. That's legal precedent. So all we have to do is prove the fraud, and we can vitiate all the subsequent things. All right, so Mr. Lindell had planned this big thing, and he's a showman. He really is a showman. He planned a 3-day thing. He built up all the marketing for it. I mean, everybody was looking forward to it, including me. And the plan was he had a red team come on Saturday, and the red team's job was to attack us. It's like war games. And it was led by Colonel Waldron. You know all about that. Thank you for your service. It was to attack us and figure out what was wrong with our strategy, and they immediately found a very huge flaw in our strategy. So we, on Sunday, were struggling to recover from our flaw, and as late as Monday night, we were all pretty afraid about where we were. But anyway, I'll come to that in a second. And then there was the show, and that's what Mr. Lindell always called it. He put together the show. He was trying to market what he was doing to the general public. I'm a geek. I like to talk numbers, but he's thinking, no, I got to sell pillows to the American people. That's what he's going to do. And so he had the show, and that's what was going on camera 24/7. And then in the background, they had the cyber experts, and there were about 50 of them you were there, you met them, the cyber experts. We had one here. Yeah, there you are. You were there? Yeah. Yeah. And our goal was to give them PCAPs and have them analyze them during the week. And Mr. Lindell was planning to run back in the back room with the microphone and say, "Oh, how's it going, guys?" And show us, what are you learning? What are you learning? And that was the plan, right? That was the plan. Okay. And then the mock election. He was running an election with the a kind of equipment that people use in their elections. And the idea was, in the first day, he said, let's have an election, everybody. Go back and vote on a voting machine. He had a voting machine set up in the background. And the idea was to teach the American public how the election is being stolen. So people would vote on the voting machine, and then it would be transmitted through the routers and everything, and you'd capture the PCAPs from that, and we would show you how to interpret the PCAPs and what they looked like. And then after he would announce the results of the election, and then he'd say, now let's hack the election, and somebody in another room would hack in and swap the votes, and we would then capture those PCAPs and show people how you can trace that. In other words, he was trying to give a real life example of how it was working. But something happened unexpected. 5 minutes into the election, there were 2 guys within 5 minutes in the audience. Think about it. You have all these cyber geeks. These are all excellent people at hacking. 2 people hacked the election right as it was happening, right in the room from their cell phones. Do you remember that? Were you one of those? No. We didn't plan that. That was cool. But it just made the point that the elections are hackable, right? It was perfect. We didn't even plan that. So there were so many things like that. Okay. And then we had the media there. The whole idea was need to pierce the media. So we had 9 people from CNN there the first day. They weren't there the last day. Did you notice that they pulled out like maybe middle of the second day? They left. And you know what they did? They gave their badges to Antifa people. Okay, so anyway, that's what the show, that's what it was supposed to be. Okay. Oh, and then I flew out early. I was there on a Saturday because I wanted to get ready and be part of the team. I was part of the organizing team, right? And part of the planning. And then I planned to stay an extra day because after our beautiful cyber experts had confirmed everything was peachy, I was going to stay an extra day and gather PCAPs and organize them and send them out to my supermom teams around the country because they were all going to go knock on their Board of Elections doors and say, hey, what gives? Our election was hacked and here's the evidence, right? So that was my plan. That was my plan. No battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. So the red team found some big flaws in our data, and it was tough. I was looking at Mr. Lindell, and I just said, if you give these data to our cyber guys on Tuesday, they're going to laugh and walk out, and they're going to say you have nothing. And what he had done is he had taken the data and scrubbed it. Think about it. A PCAP has from, to, passwords, content, everything in it. We can't just give 3,009 counties worth of passwords to everybody. That's illegal too. So he actually downloaded the data and had people scrub it, take out all the passwords. But he's not a technical guy, and he took too much out. They took too much out. So what they ended up giving the guys was basically the leftovers. And then the challenge to them was, can you prove this is from the 2003 election? 2020 election. And it's like, yeah, it's 2020 election data, but we can't tell whether it's real or not real because you haven't given all the other stuff that we need. And I'm a technical guy, and after this meeting, I had a little talk with Mike, and I just basically nothing goes in public until I look at it, okay? Because I would have caught that mistake immediately, and that was a pretty big mistake. So, but the thing is that you can't just immediately download a whole new set of data. We were working with a 7 terabyte slice at the show, and that's a huge amount. And then we had to scrub it before we could even get it out. So what we did instead is we got as much as we could get ready for them. By Tuesday, and give them a little sliver, but something else happened too. I'll tell you about that. So anyway, but what I didn't realize that was going on is the cyber symposium. I'm not a military guy. I got scholarships and went to college, and I'd never served in the military. This is my tour. Thank you. Yes, sir. So I learned a whole bunch of military terms because Colonel Waldron was leading this. I had no idea most of this was going on the whole week. I'm just green as it comes. Okay, but they had SecOps going. We had 6 undercover people on the floor. Did you know that? We had 6 undercover people on the floor the whole time, and they were facial. There's a team back in the hotel. They were facial recognizing everybody on the floor. So we always knew everybody who was there until the last day when the 7 Antifa people had. They came in with the badges and masks, so it took us a while to figure it out, but we didn't. We had 7, and then we had 3 undercover FBI agents on the floor. So there were these SecOps always going on. I didn't even know this till late. There were cyber ops going on. I knew about that. We had a whole team of people that were trying to defend us from all the cyber attacks. You notice it took us from 9 o'clock to 9:20 to even get live, and it took the 4th backup. We were being hacked like crazy just to try to get online to get our streaming going. We had PsyCops going on. Now that one wasn't localized. That was around the country. We had teams of people that were reading all the social media and fighting it to try to keep the message what we were doing. Okay. And then there was a canary trap. Did you know there was a canary trap on Tuesday? Not at the time. Later you did. We were only able to get a little sliver of data ready on Tuesday, and we handed it out, and then we watched how it leaked out, and then we knew who the guys were, who were not there for good reasons. All right. Yeah. So anyway, that was the canary trap, and then I never think of that stuff. I'm a scientist. Everybody shows your data. Anyway. And then there was a poison pill, and this is something I just didn't even suspect, but we found out Wednesday night, and I haven't told you the whole thing, but we found out Wednesday night that there had been warrants issued for our arrest. We were all going to be arrested on Thursday. Did you know that? No. So we were all going to be arrested because we were about to hand out the new data, and so the military people, they call it a credible threat. If you have a credible threat, you treat it like a real threat. We knew we had a mole because we had a Judas in our group. We knew we had a mole. Warrants had been issued, and we thought that if we handed out the data on Thursday, we'd all be arrested, and your computer would be seized, and you'd never like us again. So it was and then something else happened on Wednesday night. Mr. Lindell was attacked in the hotel we were in. And it was very scary for all of us, and it was right under our nose. We had a security breach. So there's all these things going on. It was just not the week at all that I planned it to be, or that I thought it was going to be. But what came out of it, there was a lot of good things that still came out of it anyway. And oh, by the way, this is the one thing most people don't know about. There were spear ops going on, spiritual ops. If there was this black screen to the right of the stage, and behind it there were people on their knees praying the whole time, and in the back rooms there were people a whole team of people. All they did the whole time was pray. And every day I would get notes on my phone. I'm fasting for you today, Dr. Frank. Pray. People all over the country were praying for us. So the Spear Ops, I think, played an important role too. Absolutely. So here we are Monday night. We're looking at this little sliver of data that we've been able to reacquire to get ready to give to our cyber experts. And so we said, okay, let's call Mr. Lindell and let's tell him to write checks and send everybody home. 10 o'clock, Monday night. And then we call him, and then, like, are you going to tell him? Are you going to tell him? What are we going to say? Okay. After we made that call, we get the call from Tina Peters. She wants to become a whistleblower. That's the lady I met back in April in Colorado, and we did the complete backups. So we're all sitting around the table, and she says, and she wants to be a whistleblower the next day. We all look up at each other. We have forensic images of all of our machines. That's better than PCAPs. PCAPs are like little snippets, and there's gaps in between. It's like the security camera, like in a bank. It's like a picture, and then there's a picture, and we have forensic images of our machine that we can now go public with. We couldn't go public if she wasn't going whistleblower, because we would expose her. So she comes. So from 10 o'clock, we call Mr. Lindell. He walks into the room at 10:30, and we're all smiles. We're all smiling, and Kurt Olson, who's Navy SEAL, so he has colorful language. Mr. Lindell comes in the room, and Kurt looks up to him. Biggest grin I've ever seen on Kurt's face. He says, Mr. Lindell, you're the luckiest in the country. And Mr. Lindell looked back and said, no, it's a divine providence. And that's exactly how it felt. The whole week, everything that went monstrously wrong worked out really well. And I know we still don't have the BCAPs, but did you see the link that went out last night? There's a public link. I noticed. Okay, well, we'll talk about that maybe. I haven't checked it myself, but they might have just gone public. We'll have to see. Okay, so that's me and Kurt. Look at the smile on his face. Kurt Olson, that's Lindell's attorney, and Colonel Waldron. That's us at about 9 o'clock on Thursday night, just going. We survived. And my whole life has been like that. It's like a leaf on a river. Every day I wake up and I quit trying to make plans. I just say, okay, wherever God takes me today, that's where I'm going. Okay, so there were some positive outcomes. We had 40 million unique viewers. So 40 million people now know that didn't know before. We had forensic. Now everybody knows we have forensic image of machines. Wasn't that important for you to know as a legislator? Legislators all around the country now are backing up their machines because they know that that's a vulnerability. And you formed the caucus, that funny word. You guys formed caucus, like 30, there's 20 to 30 of you, something like that. And then we have whistleblowers now that are coming to us. And are you in the chat group with the other? Yeah. So this is what I didn't think about. So Mr. Lindell offered a $5 million reward if you could come and prove that the PCAPs weren't real. So I was expecting a lot of the guys to come. That's what they were there for, and I was surprised. I was wrong. Just a few of them were there for that reason. Most of them were there because they're patriots like me, and they wanted to be part of the team, fighting for our country. And so not only did we organize these politicians, we organized a bunch of cyber geeks, and now we have like a cyber army. It's awesome. We gave you some today to take home, yeah? Yeah, but okay, and he's going to be smart, not talk too much about it. But we have some really good data that we've been giving him. And I was sitting there 2.5 hours on Saturday afternoon with Mr. Lindell, just me and him across the table, and I was arguing, and I was demanding that he release the PCAPs. And he was saying, well, he says, I think I just convinced my attorney yesterday. See, the problem is if he does it, then he can go to jail. And these are not good days to be in jail, are they? And so this is there's finesses to this. There are multiple ways to release them. So I like Mike. We weren't like arguing, but we were struggling with that. And every few minutes he would pick up his phone and say, check it out what the cyber guys just found. He's got this stream and he's like, oh, check out this, oh, check this out. So he's excitable. Okay, so thanks for that work. Yeah.
I just have a quick question. Who is Bill Bruch? Because he's not in our group, and
Bill
I don't
Bruch.
know who he is.
He's head of the GOP in Washington. Yes. Yeah, he was there. And sorry, we need to get him in. Yeah, Bill Bruch is his name. Yeah, in fact, I was just with him yesterday. Yeah, okay. And then organization inspiration. We had a lot of super moms there, and they all got organized. So see, a lot of good things happened. A lot of people got organized. This book was given to me by the Colorado teams, and that's PDF. It's a PDF of how do you set up canvassing, how do you set up these local grassroots group to do the canvassing we need to do. They wrote a book to teach everybody else how to do it. Yeah, what's that?
I was just curious, what's the name for the organization of cyber experts? What do y'all call it?
We don't have a name for them, but we need a name. They're under the radar, right? We're not telling you who they are yet. But our super moms are going to save our country. That's what I've been saying. All right. So, and what about the PCAPs? I already told you about the PCAPs. They could come out any day. And Lindell was even just saying, he says, I don't care if they put me in jail. I'm just going to dump them tomorrow. Yeah. They were that close. We're that close to it happening. So I don't know when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen. There's this interesting thing. It's the Cybersecurity Act of 2015 something. I don't know what it is. But there are several organizations around the country that are allowed to receive that kind of information and allowed to inspect it. So one strategy is just to give it to them. Another strategy is to give it to Congress. Yeah. But it's just sort of like the audit thing. Yeah. As soon as you give it away, it's like it's out of your control. It's why I don't like the audit strategy for the first step. I don't mind audits. I really don't. I just don't want to give away our power immediately to somebody else. I like the canvassing strategy first because you build a movement. Everybody who's canvassing discovers phantom voters and tells their friends, and you're building a movement, and then you're also equipping the audit strategy. So I have nothing against audits. I just think they're not first. They're next, if that makes sense. So anyway, I know I'm going to hurry up. Okay, I'm going to tell you. Okay, I have to do this. I know I'm running late, huh? I know. Okay, if they kick me out, I'll pay for the room. No, I'm kidding. Keep going. All right, here we go. How the elections are being stolen. So this is essentially how our elections are being stolen. Before the election, they decide what they want the outcome to be. Okay, so, and you couldn't make it 90% Biden and 10% Trump. Nobody would believe it, right? So there's a margin in there that people will believe, and they've been telling us for decades incorrectly that we're evenly split as a country. And so they try to make it like 53-47, something like that, let's say. So, but to do that, you need to say, okay, we're going to try to make that our target. There's no way we're going to win that state, no way we're going to win that state, but we got to win this one, or they got to win that one. So then they do polling to find out where they are, which is the big mistake they made in 2016 because they believe their own polls. They believe their own polls in 2020 too, which is why some things happen. But anyway, let me move on. So you decide what you want to be, and and then they regulate that at the county level. Every county is where the numbers are regulated. So it's decided at the state level, regulated at the county level. And what they do is they inflate the registration databases. And I finally got my first look at some of your registration databases this morning. And John, wherever you are, John, did a whole bunch of previous work for me. Thank you, which allowed me to quickly show you some graphs today. I think I have some issues that we have to work out still, but for the most part, it's going to work. You'll get to see it. Okay, so anyway, the registration databases, they inflate the registration databases, and the reason they do that is because it gives them a credit line of phantom voters. Think about it. Most of the states maintain a list of people that have died, who have moved away, who are inactive, and they take them off the rolls. And what they do is they just put them back in. And then you can put in a ballot for them. Does that make sense? So you just have to decide how much you need. Yeah, your hand's up, sir.
Say
They. Yeah, they're technocrats, Soros, the cabal. Yeah, we subpoenaed in Pennsylvania. We subpoenaed the records on who was getting into the registration databases. It was the Hillary Clinton campaign, Rock the Vote, and 30 of their partner organizations in Pennsylvania. So, you could FOIA that here. You could say, who's getting into your database? The problem is hackers don't like to give away their identity. And some states, in Pennsylvania, they were legally given access. And in your state, I don't know if you legally given access to your people. So anyway, that's what happens. Then you program the machines before the election. We've known for quite a long time that they're hackable. This is an article from 2018. Scientific American is predicting chaos in 2020 because the machines can be hacked. In Absolute Interference, the movie, they had Amy Klobuchar saying, "Oh yeah, 2016 was stolen, because the machines are all hackable." And of course, they are hackable, of course. You program ahead of time. During elections, they monitor it. The reason you monitor it is because you need to know how your prediction's working. If your prediction's not working the way you planned, you got to stuff some more. Yeah. That's why everything had to stop at 11 o'clock, because they underpredicted. And they had to go in and stuff a whole bunch more phantom voters and then vote for them. In Michigan, where I was on the DePerno case, we subpoenaed the Secretary of State. Well, let me just back up. On 11 o'clock on election night, they added 155,000 voters at 11 o'clock. New unique voter IDs. We subpoenaed the Secretary of State for the names that go with that. And she said, okay, yeah, by law I'm required to give that to you. It'll take us about 2 years. That is the walk list right there. You walk that list, they're all going to be phantom voters, right? There are more, because before that they'd added 350,000 others. So that's 350 plus 150, that's 500,000 phantom voters in Michigan. Okay, and that's before we even get into the regular voting. So of course Trump won Michigan. Okay, so and then after the election you have to do the cleanup, because if you stuff a bunch of phantom voter IDs, you have to pair them up. Colbeck calls that the eHarmony.com. You have to combine the voters with the numbers. So the whole point, though, is that the whole time there are algorithms going. There's computers. Computers don't do anything by themselves. Every step they do, that you have to program. I'm a programmer, I get this. So that's another thing that's kind of unique about me. I love math, I love elections, I love epidemics, I love programming, I love electronics, I build electronics for a living. It's like everything about this is like me. So it's like I can figure all this out because I'm just thinking like me. It's just who I am. Okay, so the whole point of an algorithm, though, is don't be afraid of that. It's just like a recipe, right? It's just a set of steps that you do, and we like the name algorithms because it usually means they're equations too. So let me just give you a really simple way, and then I'm going to cut to the chase because I know we're going to run out of time. Imagine that you have this 20-sided die and you roll it 83 times. Okay, you roll it 83 times, and you get this list of numbers. I'm not showing all 83 of them, but you get the idea. You just get this, and then you go over to your next county over. Let's say you go to Greenfield, and you roll it 83 times again, and you get this exact same set of 83 numbers. Is that real? No. So you can recognize an algorithm like that, right? When I go and I show county clerks this exact same calculation for their voting rolls, it's the same thing. It just doesn't look like it. They say, well, show me the evidence. That's evidence. Okay, that's huge evidence. So for math geeks, we're just like, well, duh, we're done. You don't even need to do canvassing. We're done. We know we need an audit already. But people need the canvassing. It's like the convincing thing. So imagine if you go county to county to county and it's always the same 83 numbers, all 46 of your counties. You know that's not real, right? So then you go to the next state over. Let's say you go to North Carolina. Now it's a new set of 83 numbers, and that's the same in every county. And then you go to another state, say Pennsylvania. I'm going north. Go out to Pennsylvania. It's a new set of 83 numbers, and it's the same in every county. That's not real, is it? And you know it's being decided at a state level and regulated at a county level. That's exactly what's happening in our elections in every state in our country. And I've done over 30 states now. All right. Okay, so I know. These are data. This is the 2010 census, and then this is from the Census Bureau. What they do is they just show you that first year because that's the last time we had a detailed census, And then what the census does is it just shifts it 1 year every year. These are their estimates, and you notice that they also attenuate this side for people passing away. So that's how the census works. Now here's a real county, Pennsylvania District 4, and you notice that you've got how many thousands of people of each age by age, and then if you take out the kids and you shrink it a little bit because not everybody over 18 can vote, some felons and some foreigners, and you add, this is who's registered to vote in Pennsylvania District 4, and that was a big warning sign to me. When I first saw this, I was like, 98% of people are registered. If you go knock on doors in Pennsylvania District 4 and say, are you registered to vote? Are you registered to vote? And you go door to door, it's about 65% or 70% of people are registered to vote. Not 98%. Okay? Here's who supposedly voted in Pennsylvania District 4. And every time I show this, people are like, wait a minute, Dr. Frank, this looks like really similar. Yeah, I thought so too. And so I noticed that if you multiply that black curve by one number, 86%, that it looks a lot alike, and that's a clue. That's a clue, right? So this was me figuring out something's not right about this. There's this number called the correlation coefficient, 0.994. It's one of the ways that I write automatic routines that like go through the data and find stuff. And when you find high correlations, you chase them down. And I found this high correlation. I was trying to figure out what it is. Correlation coefficient, R, it's a number. It tells you how well one set of data predicts another set of data. So if you have a 1, that means that if I give you one number, I can exactly predict another number. If it's 0, that means if you give me one number, the other number is completely random. I can't predict it at all. Or if it's -1, that means that when one goes up, the other one goes down. They're inversely correlated. But what you just need to remember is this 1. Because just about everything I'm doing, I can predict just about everything, and I shouldn't be able to do that. Okay, and by the way, in social sciences, R values are around 0.6, 0.7, typically in social sciences. Anything to do with people is very unpredictable. People are unpredictable. All right, so let's go back to Pennsylvania District 4. Pennsylvania District 4, this is actually the census now I'm showing you, but I have it sized in the same size as Pennsylvania District 4. I took a picture of your mother and I shrunk it. Okay, so it's the census, this shrunk. And I'm going to shift it 10 years to the right because it's 10 years later. 10 years later, it's not 2010 anymore, just like the census does, and I include the mortality just like the census does, and here's who's registered to vote in Pennsylvania District 4. And that's when I realized, of course, think about it. If you're going to add people to a registration roll, you're going to just add 1,000,000 60-year-olds? No, it would stick out. You have to have something to compare to. What are you going to compare to? The census, of course. It's the best example you have. So the algorithm is just simply filling up the county by county until it hits the census value. And I played a game for a while where I would back calculate the census from every county. It was just to test if my theory was working. So anyway, I just wanted you to see that's how I figured this out. And if I hadn't, by the way, that census graph I showed you, here's another one of those divine appointments. Let's go back to that thing. Come on, baby. Where are you? Maybe, you know what? It comes up again in a minute. I don't remember. Let me just tell you, I was teaching the 2010 census to my kids in September, right before I started analyzing the data. So that was fresh in my mind. If I hadn't been teaching that, I probably wouldn't have even thought of it. That's another one of those divine appointments. Okay, so sorry, let's move on here. Okay. Oh, yeah, there it is. See? Look at the date on that. September 24th of 2020. I was teaching the census. Now, this is a pretend county. This is not a real county. I'm going to create a pretend county. 1,275 people. Just, it's like 15 people of every age, and then people begin to pass away. Okay. So, if you take out the kids, you have exactly 1,000 people. That's why I picked that funny number, because now I get an easy number. 1,000 people. My super moms are always saying, make the math easy, Dr. Frank. So let's assume a certain percentage of them are registered to vote. And I remember when I first showed this to one of my friends, he's a political guy, he worked for Newt Gingrich for 30 years, and I showed this to him in February, and he was saying, this is a horrible example, Dr. Frank. He called me Doug. Why? Well, because no districts are registered 87%. They're all between 60 and 70%. Boy, did he have a surprise. And so, and then this. So here, this is a pretend county. You've got the population, you've got who's registered, and then you've got who votes. Get the idea? But you notice that each one of them is a percentage of the other. So if you knew the blue curve, you could get the red curve. If you knew the black curve, you could get either curve. In other words, if you know any one, you can get all the others. That's how I did Ohio. Once I knew the shape of the curve, I predicted all the counties. Starting from the census. I didn't even know who was registered. See how that works? Okay, good. Here's Hamilton County. I'm going to jump ahead. Come run out of time. We were warned. Here's October of 2020. Judicial Watch said there are 353 counties in the country that have more people registered than have people. We were warned, and we were affluenza'd. At the Cyber Symposium, I met this guy, Kurt. He heard the talk, and he came running up to me afterwards. Dr. Frank, he says, I predicted what you found. This article is written in 2010. Will the 2010 U.S. Census data be used to fraudulently register voters? He predicted 10 years ago what I found. And so it was fun. He and I got on a TV interview together, and we just had the best time. He's a geek like me. I'm going to jump ahead. I can show you so much stuff. It's so fun. I'm working full time on this for a long time. The key idea to realize is that this is another county. This is Hamilton. Is if I multiply the black curve by 86%, you notice it fits pretty well. But I don't have to just use one number. I could use a different number for every age. And if I use a different number for every age, that's 83 numbers. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 20, all the way up to 100. That's 83 numbers. That's why I use the dice rolling 83 times, right? That's a different percentage for every age. And if I do that, we would call that the registration key. Okay, and the thing about it that's interesting is, by the way, this is me using that key to predict Hamilton County, but I didn't use Hamilton County to get my key. But I'm going to show you your own state. This is what the key looks like. And this is another big surprise, because it shouldn't be a perfect function. It shouldn't be a smooth function. It should be random. It has to deal with people. So as soon as I saw that, I'm a physicist. What do? We look at data, we make models, we test models. It's a model. In fact, it's a sixth-order polynomial. And we use them all the time in science and all kinds of things. In fact, I taught a class for girls. It was called Math for Girls. It was a homeschool class. And the super mom who put it together, because all homeschool moms are super moms, she put the class together. She got me 6 girls, high school girls from the community, were all homeschooled, and they were all bad at math. And she said, will you please teach these 7 girls math? I had the best time with them. One of them got a math minor. The first thing we did for the first 2 weeks is we wrote a polynomial to learn how to pick a husband. And I had them from then on. They knew why they were learning math. And the whole rest of the year, we just, every piece of math we learned, we immediately applied. And because the girls always say, why are we learning this? Right? They always say that. You know, guys will say dutifully, okay, I have to learn this because I know I need it later in life for something. Yes, I know. But girls are like, nope, I want to know why I'm learning this. I want to know now. And so we did that. That's how we did that class. It was a fun class. But anyway, polynomials, if you take that graph that I showed you, and you were to right click on it in Excel, up comes this interesting little window. If you add a trend line. And one of the ways you can fit it is with what's called a polynomial. And if you click that, and then there's this thing next to it called order, and it's a little drop, and you click on it, you know when it goes bigger or smaller? It stops at 6. It stops at 6. It doesn't go any higher. And I have found a 6th-order polynomial in every state in the country that I've looked at so far. So America was stolen by a Excel spreadsheet. That's amazing. So anyway, here's your key. Here's your key. I just calculated this today. I should say today. Yeah, it does. I did this in the airplane flying here. That's what your key looks like. So it has an interesting shape. It's a 6th-order polynomial. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you all of your counties, all 46 of them, using one key to predict every county. Make sense? So the blue curve is your population of this is the first one in the list, right? A. So that's why I used it. So blue is the population. Black is supposedly who's registered. No. That's full of phantom voters. 85% of your people are registered. Nah. The red curve is who's supposedly voted. And that light blue curve underneath it, wait a minute, I did something. Yeah, okay, there's the census. I went to the trouble. I might as well use the slide. Okay, and there's the registrations, and then that's me predicting how many ballots of each age would be turned in. And then the red curve is how many ballots were actually recorded. And then there's this interesting number over here, R, and you notice that I'm predicting Abbeville County, South Carolina, with a correlation coefficient of 0.998. That's essentially perfect, yeah. I shouldn't be able to do that. So with one key, I'm going to run all of them now. You ready? All right, so I think it's just going to start. That's and it's going to be 1 second per slide. I think I started it. Maybe not. Okay, here. Now I started it. It pauses for a second. Go. Yeah, there we go. And you'll notice some of these are like ridiculous. Every county. And what you can notice is sometimes the black line's going above the blue line. And also the R's are all stupid good. There's going to be 4 counties in here that I think my data are incomplete, and we'll have to figure that out with my data guys. Like that. I think I don't have everybody in there. I don't think everybody. That was Hori. I don't think I have everybody in there. Are you getting the idea? Every county. I shouldn't be able to do that. Why can't I do that? Because it's an algorithm that's stuffing ballots based upon a predetermined limit. So it just stuffs it right to the limit every time. All right. So this is a table of summary of that, of all 46 of your counties. And I noticed when I looked that there are 4 counties there's something wrong with. We got to look at that data guy. I think there's something wrong. I think I didn't get all your data somehow. When it got transferred to me, I think it's missing. But anyway, so you guys are experiencing this in real time, yeah? And that's an example of one, right? Greenville County. It's something wrong with that. What's your population in Greenville? This says 400. The 18 plus population is 403 according to the census. So anyway, I think something's wrong with this. We have to figure this out. Anyway. That's probably the real one. And then also, this was the worst fit of all. And by the way, it's a college town, I bet. Is it a college town? Yeah, because when you see a big bunch of kids like this, and notice that there's too many votes in the kid area, so I'm guessing that's what it is. But anyway, I don't know for sure. That's the first time I've ever looked at the data, so you guys are looking at it with me real time. The average R was 0.996. That ain't natural, buddy. Those ladies came to the bar one day at one of my. I asked them. I said, "Are those natural?" They said they were. Okay. So what's the solution? We have to go primitive. Your centralized records are hackable. And mail-in votes are especially hackable. We need single-day in-person elections. I'm going to rush through this because I don't need to tell you guys. I think you guys basically get it. The idea is we have to vote Amish. All paper, no electricity. I won't tell you this story. It's a simple metaphor. You can go on my Rumble channel and see this. My Rumble channel is called Dr. Frank. It's a simple metaphor about blonde hair that helps you explain the election. And even blondes can understand it. And I mean that affectionately. My wife's a blonde. Okay. All right. So anyway, how about if I end? Well, I have to do one more thing. Yes. I'm a firm believer in the people. Lincoln said this. If given the truth, they can be depended upon to meet any national crisis. This is a national crisis. The great point is to bring them real facts, and that's what I'm doing. We have to remember that no one's coming to save us. We are the people we're waiting for. That politicians don't start parades, they join them. We have to start the parade ourselves. Yes, we have to be the parade. Each one of us has to make our own stand. All right, so I'm a physicist, so I like doing this little demonstration. All right.
I'm so sorry that we went past the time, but it was worth it, right? Excellent presentations.